came rolling home. This old man, he played knick-knack on my drum with a knick-knack, paddywhack, give the dog a bone. This old man came rolling.
This is Carl Cowell. He has cerebral palsy. 2 years ago, he couldn't walk. Lucy Reynolds also has cerebral palsy. Her arms, legs and head often won't do what she wants them to, but now she's learning to overcome her disabilities. Carl, Lucy and a few other cerebral palsied children in Britain have been lucky enough to experience conductive education, a remarkable teaching process developed in Hungary over 40 years ago. But despite the ever-mounting evidence that conductive education could transform the lives of tens of thousands of children in this country, it still isn't recognised by most local authorities. The majority of British cerebral palsy children are still being helped to cope with their disability rather than being taught how to conquer it. What's required is an educational revolution.
There are thousands of people in this country, thousands who could potentially benefit from conductive education. They can't have it because it isn't here. And that hope is going to be disappointed for a long, long time, maybe too long to be useful to the person who would need it.
We've had Tuesday.
There are schools in Britain, however, which have been using conductive education for a number of years. It may not be exactly the same system as developed at the Peto Institute in Budapest, but it seems to work in our very different political and cultural climate.
I stand up. 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 Up.
Staff at the Percy Headley School in Newcastle first recognised the value of conductive education 8 years ago. They've seen the benefits to the children, to their parents, and to the staff themselves.
Stretch. I stand up tall. Tall.
The essence of conductive education is that it's a learning process and not a form of intensive therapy. The children are taught to master the body functions which previously were out of their control. But it is not the miracle cure for cerebral palsy which some recent publicity has implied.
Hold and pull. Stretch. Hold and pull.
When you look at all the training of staff, the effort that goes into program planning, and most especially all the effort of the children, well, it makes for a very hard-earned miracle. As regarded being a cure, well, it certainly isn't a cure. If you're born with cerebral palsy, you die with cerebral palsy. What you can do throughout your life is to learn your way through your society so that you can function as independently as possible. And that may mean you'll gain a lot of independence, but you will always have cerebral palsy.
To grasp how the effects of cerebral palsy can be overcome, it's important to understand the nature of the condition in the first place. The brain damage which causes cerebral palsy, usually at or around birth, can vary greatly in its extent. Thus, the resulting level of physical handicap will also vary from child to child, and some might be mentally handicapped as well. In addition, there are other psychological effects.
If you've got a body which won't do what you want it to do, and if that condition means that other people have to help you a lot, to some degree you learn to be helped. And you give up trying to help yourself to a large degree. So there's very much a motivational problem which stems from the initial problems. As well as that, you'll have social problems in that because you can't run about like other children, you don't learn to mix in the same way as other children. Your life may be dominated by adults helping you, and you may cease to think of yourself really as a child. Your world is very much an adult world. It's certainly not a fixed state, but you can improve in terms of how you get about, improve in terms of how you communicate, improve in terms of how you think about the world and how you relate to other people.
The traditional approach to the cerebral palsied child has been on an individual, one-to-one basis. Thus, in a week, the child might see many different specialists, speech and physiotherapists, psychologists, paediatricians and teachers. In conductive education, the children work as a group with a team of adult professionals. These conductors guide the children through preset programs of movement and speech patterns, which are made as much fun as possible. Gradually, the child learns those basic functions which are essential for an independent life and for normal schooling. Arm control is needed if you're going to read from a book, and if you can't make a fist, you won't be able to grip a pencil to write.
I make my right hand a fist. Fist, fist, fist. Knock on the plinth with your fist. That's what you can do when you make a fist, that's right. Keep holding with one hand.
The conductive education process is special because it looks at the child as a whole being and not as a series of unconnected physical and psychological problems.
2, and I look up. I look up. Up, up, up. Right, now we're going to walk hands down the shelves this time. I walk my hands down the shelves. I walk my hands down the shelves. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. And I roll onto my back.
The effect of the group is also vital. Children are spurred on by their companions' achievements, and then they themselves will inspire others.
If you were to pick out one bit about conductive education, which makes it unique, I think it is that it is looking for the motivation of the child. That, as I said, the secondary effect of cerebral palsy can be, and often is, that the child gives up. And really what conductive education is about is ensuring that the child does not give up, but that he wants to do things. We all have great examples throughout life of what determination can do. So basically what conductive education is trying to do is give the child that determination back so that he sets about trying to achieve things for himself.
Again, forward. I sit up. Up, up, up. That's it, you're looking at your hand, Paul, that's helping. Look at your hand. Look.
Rutland House is one of 2 schools run by the Spastic Society, which use the principles of conductive education. The children are more severely handicapped than those at Percy Headley School.
Toothbrush to mouth. This is the way I brush my teeth, brush my teeth, brush my teeth. This is the way I brush my teeth on a cold and sunny morning. Brush, brush this away, brush, brush all the day. Brush my teeth all clean today. I look at my flannel. Look.
The children at Rutland House School have profound cerebral palsy. That means they have a mental handicap as well as a severe physical handicap. And many of the children have visual problems. Many of the children have hearing problems. They are non-speaking and they are incontinent. These children will not be accepted at the Institute in Budapest because they are too profoundly handicapped. But I believe that these children can develop and learn skills using the system of conductive education that they will not learn in any other way.
This morning we're going to sit and we're going to use our hands to make some sounds on the switches. First of all, we're going to make sure that you're all sitting properly.
Before coming to Rutland House, these children would have done little for themselves. They and their parents might not have been given any hope for future improvement.
To sit.
People don't look at these children that we're working with here as having any potential because they're so damaged. But I believe that these children have potential, and conductive education is the method that helps me to look at the child's learning and to structure his learning so that he does achieve.
Look, look, good guy. My head is in the middle.
Each child's achievement is going to be different because each child's handicap is different. But what I want for the children is that they shall reach their full potential. And if you are providing the environment and you set the goals realistically, the child will achieve.
I lift my head up, up, up. Good Katrina, good Neil. Head up, Charlotte, good. Guy, good. Louise, head up, up. All the way up into the middle, up, and into the middle. Up into the middle. Good. Keep it into the middle, Louise. Keep it in the middle, Louise.
As with all educational innovations, objective assessment is required to establish the levels of success. The media have tended to feature those children who have learned to walk, especially those who have been to the Peto Institute in Budapest. Sadly, the less spectacular achievements of children, such as these at Rutland House, have largely been ignored.
Good.
To look at the Hungarian model as I understand it, they talk in terms of success as those children who go out to local schools independently. Now, when I was in Hungary, I looked at a group of children and I asked conductors of those group of children who will go out into the local schools and who will not. They picked the same children that I would have picked. But what struck me very, very forcibly is if you have success by definition, you must have failure. And what I felt was that the group of children who were picked out as not being able to go on to their local school independently were indeed not failures, that they had learned to function extremely well, given the initial severity of their handicap.